Hello everyone. Today in this lecture of microbiology, today we are dealing with the concepts of immunity. First of all, let me tell you people what and all we are going to discuss in this lecture. That is immunity, definition and classification of immunity, and the second one is the innate immunity, that is mechanisms of innate immunity and cells involved in innate immunity. This is a pretty much important topic when it comes for microbiology exams, and questions will be asked like this: define and classify immunity, briefly explain innate immunity, discuss its mechanisms, and briefly describe the cells involved in the innate immunity. This kind of important 10-marker question will be asked when it comes for immunity in the final examinations of microbiology. Okay, let's start our discussion. First of all, we need to know what exactly the immunity is. Immunity is defined as the resistance exhibited by the host towards the injury which are caused by the microorganisms is defined as immunity. And we have to classify the immunity. We have learnt about the definition of immunity, and let's see about the classification. Immunity is mainly classified into two broad units, that is innate immunity and acquired immunity. When it comes for innate immunity, there are two types, that is non-specific and specific immunity, and in acquired immunity, there is active immunity and passive immunity. In this non-specific type of immunity, there are species, racial and individual immunities, and the same when it comes for specific type of immunity in case of innate. And when it comes for acquired immunity, that is in active and passive, there are two other divisions called as natural and artificial immunity. Let me explain all this one by one, okay? So, today in this lecture, we are dealing with the topic of innate immunity, and the acquired immunity and other concepts will be explained in the next lecture. Okay, when it comes for innate immunity, let us study about the mechanism of innate immunity and the cells involved in the innate immunity. Mechanism of innate immunity. When it comes for the epithelial surfaces, for example, skin. In skin, what happens is, in skin, there will be secretions from the glands such as sebaceous glands and sweat glands. In these particular sebaceous and sweat glands, there will be increased concentration of the salt, which makes the skin a natural barrier for those pathogens. By having bactericidal activity, by this increased concentration of salts from the secretion of sebaceous and sweat glands, it will be having bactericidal activity. Okay, so this is about the skin. And the important thing which we have to know when it comes for skin is, there will be a resident flora of bacteria which is protective, that is, it resists the pathogens from invading on the surface of the skin. So, while during disinfection or doing disinfections on our skin, we have to make sure that resident flora of bacteria on the skin should not be harmed. So, this is about the skin. And next, let us study about the mucous surfaces, that is the mucous membranes. And when it comes for the mucous surfaces, first we will study about the nose. Okay. In mucous surfaces, in nose, when the pathogen enters the nose, it will be restricted. It will be restricted basically near the orifice of the nose. Okay. But still, if that escapes from the restriction near the orifice, it will be trapped by the mucosal lining in the nasal vestibule. Mucosal lining in nasal vestibule. Those pathogens will be trapped. Okay. So, after that, it will be either swallowed or swept back to the pharynx. The pathogens which are trapped in the mucosal lining will either be swallowed or swept back into the pharynx. So, when it is swept back into the pharynx, these pathogens are they are removed out of the body by an important defense mechanism in the body called as cuff reflex or cuff mechanism, which is a very important defense mechanism, so that the body will be able to throw out many of the pathogens from the body. So this is about the nose. Next, Under the mucosal surface, we will discuss about the mechanism of innate immunity exhibited by the respiratory tract. Respiratory tract. Okay. So, in the case of respiratory tract, the pathogens which is entering the respiratory system, it will be stopped, it will be restricted by the ciliary lining. It will be restricted by the ciliary lining in the lungs, that is in the trachea. And this ciliary lining, this sweeps back the pathogens again into the upper tract. And there, the mucus secretion plus respiratory secretion will be rich in a substance called as mucopolysaccharides. So, for example, if the influenza has entered the respiratory tract, it will be swept back into the upper airways, and there this mucopolysaccharides which are present in mucus surfaces and respiratory secretions and mucus secretion, this forms a bond with the influenza, and this thereby kills this pathogen influenza. Okay. And one question is, if the pathogen will be able to bypass or to cross this barrier of ciliary lining, and if that enters into the alveolus, in the alveolus there is a monster called as phagocytes. This phagocytes kills the pathogen. Okay. So this is what the mechanism when it comes for respiratory system. Okay. Next we will study about the mouth and GIT. Under the mucus surfaces, mouth and GIT. So in case of mouth, there will be salivary glands. As we all know, there are salivary glands in the mouth, and when a pathogen enters the mouth, the salivary glands which secretes the saliva will be having bactericidal action that will inhibit the bacteria in entering the body. Okay, that will inhibit this pathogen. If this pathogen bypasses or crosses this salivary obstruction of the mouth and then goes into the GIT, there the gastric secretions in the GIT, in GIT, gastric secretions, this will kill the pathogen. This is how the mechanism of innate immunity works in mouth and GIT. Next we will look up the eyes, how there will be mechanism of destruction of the pathogens by this innate immunity in the eyes. So the eyes will be rich in lysozymes. Okay, eyes are rich in lysozymes, where this lysozyme splits the mucopolysaccharide lining or the mucopolysaccharide border of the bacterial cell wall. Okay, mucopolysaccharide border of the bacterial cell wall will be lysed or will be destroyed. So this will keep the eye, that is the sclera, conjunctiva and other parts of the eye free of pathogens. This is about the eye. Next we will study about the genital system, the genital tract, urinary plus genital tract. How there will be defense mechanism pathway or defense mechanism system which is present in the urinary and genital tract. The basic simple defense mechanism is when a pathogen enters the urethra, the flushing of urine, that is when a person micturates, there will be flushing of the urine which goes in a flow inside the urethra. So this naturally, this takes away this pathogen and flushes out of the body. Okay, this is the natural mechanism. But studying this genital tract defense mechanism separately in males and females. In males, in semen, there will be spermine and zinc which have bactericidal activity against the pathogens. Okay, and when it comes for females, the acidic pH, the environment of the vagina will be in the acidic and will be having acidic environment, and this causes an inhospitalized environment, that is inhospitalization of those pathogens by creating not a favorable environment. And the thing comes to your mind is, why the vagina is having the acidic environment. This is because the glycogen which are present in the epithelial cells of the vagina, this will be metabolized, giving rise to the formation of the lactic acid, which is thereby responsible for the acidic environment of the vagina. So these are about the mucous surfaces, defense mechanism in the mucous surfaces when it comes for epithelial innate immunity defense mechanism. Okay. Next we will study about the defense mechanism in blood and tissues. Defense mechanism in blood and tissues. So there is something called as beta-lysine, a substance called as beta-lysine, which has the bactericidal activity which is present in the blood. This is one of the important factors contributing for the defense mechanism in case of the innate immunity. And next we will be having some of the particles like leukins and plaquins. So the name is pretty much similar. This leukin name is pretty much similar to the leukocytes, okay, and this plaquin name is pretty much similar to the platelets. So this suggests that the leukins are derived products of the leukocytes and the plaquins are the derived products of the platelets, which have the mechanism of destroying the bacteria, that is the bactericidal activity when it comes for blood. And the other thing is the acidic secretions or the acidic environment which are present in the muscles and inflammatory zones. Okay, this is caused due to the lactic acid production, which provides a acidic environment especially in the muscle tissues and in inflammatory zone, causing the destruction of the organism. And the last one is interferons. So interferons is very unique, it is very specific, okay. These interferons have a very much greater role in protection and preventing the certain acute viral infection from invading the body, or we can also say that this interferons is responsible for the destruction of certain acute viral infections in the body. So this is about the particles or the things which are present in the blood and tissues contributing for the defense mechanism in innate immunity. Okay. And next we will study about the microbial antagonism. Okay. As I said before, on the skin surface, there will be a resident flora of organisms. Okay. The skin will be, there is a barrier lining on the skin which consists of the resident flora of the microorganisms. These are resident flora of microbes. Okay. These are, we can also say that these are the friendly bacteria. These are the friendly organisms which protects the skin and other tissues from invading by the bad pathogens. Okay. So this acts as a natural barrier for these bloody pathogens which tries to invade the tissues like the skin. So this is called as the microbial antagonism, the concept of microbial antagonism. Okay. Next we will study about the inflammation. Yes, you people have heard about the inflammation, a non-specific type of immune response which is seen in most of the tissues in the body. Okay. So what happens exactly in the inflammation? How this inflammatory reactions protects our body from the invading pathogens. Okay, we will study this. Let us assume that this is the inflammatory site. This is the inflammatory site. And what happens during the inflammation is, there will be initial constriction of the blood vessels. Initial constriction of the blood vessels, and this is followed by dilation of the blood vessels. Dilation of blood vessels, leading to the increased blood flow to that inflammatory zone. And also, there will be outpouring of the plasma which takes place. There will be in this inflammatory site, outpouring of the plasma takes place so that the toxins will be diluted. So that toxins are diluted. Okay. And after that, the leukocytes and other inflammatory cells, by the action of the chemotactic factors, these leukocytes, the increased number of leukocytes gets lodged in this particular inflammatory zone. Okay. And also, there will be slowing down of the blood flow. Blood flow will be slowed down This will lead to margination of this leukocytes. There will be margination of leukocytes. And then be oozing out of this leukocytes into the site of inflammation, that is inflammatory site. Okay, this is termed as diapedesis, which takes place. So after all this, the inbuilt mechanisms developed there in the inflammatory site, which have fortified that particular site to destroy the pathogen or to fight against the pathogen. After the entry of the pathogen, once the pathogen gets entered, the phagocytes and all these leukocytes and other inflammatory cells which are lodged or which have fortified this particular zone, this causes destruction of this pathogen, and thereby this inflammatory response, a non-specific type of inflammatory response, this is how it is responsible for the destruction of the pathogens. Okay, this is how the inflammatory reaction contributes for the defense mechanism against the pathogen in case of innate immunity. Next, we will study about the fever, that is how this important defense mechanism in our body, that is fever, causes destruction of the pathogens. Once the hypothalamus regulates or it changes its set point of the temperature, there will be increased temperature termed as the fever. So as this fever sets, there will be release of interferons. Interferons will be released. As I said earlier, interferons are the specific particles which fights and protects the body against the viral infection. So this causes destruction of viruses, preventing viral infections. Okay. And after that, the increased body temperature. This increased body temperature does not favor most of the microorganisms, that is pathogenic organisms which have invaded the body, leading to the destruction of these pathogens. This is how fever contributes for the defense mechanism of the body. Next, we are left with the last two defense mechanisms of the body. That is, the first thing is the acute phase proteins. Okay, we'll study about acute phase proteins. What are these acute phase proteins? These are the particular proteins. For example, the C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein on one side, and mannose binding protein, and there are many n number of acute phase protein. I am just giving examples of two C-reactive proteins and mannose binding proteins. What this causes is, this activates the alternative complementary pathway. Both of this activates the alternative complement pathway, which causes killing of the pathogen. Okay, so this is how acute phase proteins contributes for the defense mechanism. And the last one, as I said, when it comes for the defense mechanism, is the Toll-like receptors. So Toll-like receptors are one of the very unique kind of particles which are present in the body, which are known for the pattern recognition. Okay, so Toll-like receptors, this contributes for pattern recognition. That is, their main job is to recognize the pattern of antigen or the type of antigen which has invaded the body. What exactly this pattern recognition is? Once an antigen which invades the body, or once a microorganism, when it invades the body, this Toll-like receptor identifies what kind of microorganism it is, what kind of antigen it has. Okay, so this pattern recognition is very much helpful when again that particular antigen invades the body. So that this Toll-like receptor, by this pattern recognition activity, they can kill those particular pathogen, and also they can keep the autoimmunity, that is, they prevent the autoimmune reactions which happens in the body. Okay, by this pattern recognition. So this is very much important to differentiate the antigen, if it is self antigen or non-self antigen, and thus having a specific reaction, specific destructive mechanism by this Toll-like receptors against these pathogens. So once the pattern recognition has been done by Toll-like receptor, this activates the phagocytes, contributing or in turn doing or contributing for phagocytosis and thereby destruction of the pathogen. Okay. This is how the Toll-like receptors work. The key thing which you have to keep in your mind is the pattern recognition. Okay. So totally in our body there are 13 Toll-like receptors. 13 Toll-like receptors are there in our body. So this is about the mechanisms of innate immunity, and the cells involved in innate immunity and the acquired immunity and its type will be discussed in the next video. So thank you one and all. Hope this video is helpful for you people. Thank you.